pit stops this weekend at an absolute premium. We thought we'd come down here this morning with Ford Performance Racing Team and show you through the anatomy of a complete pit stop, the people and the equipment they use. So what I do right now is start with the equipment first off. So let's come in and have a look at the bottles. Nitrogen, they don't use oxygen, they use nitrogen because it's got less moisture in it. The rattle guns themselves, you can see the boys here. Here's a rattle gun, weighs about 4 kilos, plus a nut, plus a bit of hose, about 5 kilos. Now the boom itself is actually quite sophisticated. If you look out here, you'll see lights here. So each of the boys on the rattle guns, when they've finished the stop, they've got a little button on there. Let's have a look at it. There it is, little red button. They push that button. I'll get the boys to push them. Bang, 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 and then the red light goes off. And at the front here, so the car controller can see it, same thing. 4 little green lights and the red light goes off up there so they know that the wheels are safely back on the car. Now, over here we've got the fuel rig. Fuel in from the fuel rig, air out. So when that gets full of fuel, we know that the tank is full and the fuel's coming out. But they're a little more scientific than that. If you can come around here, look, Greenie, you can see in here is a readout, right? So they very precisely measure the amount of fuel that goes in the car. So what we want to do now is actually have a look at the pit stop proper, and we'll have a look at effectively what each of these guys do and who they are. Okay, boys, let's roll it. In a car comes. Now, very critical that the driver stops on the mark. Right, freeze it right there, boys. Stop right there. Okay. Really critical. Now, I talked about stopping on the mark. That's why all this tape is on the ground. So when the guys come in here, we saw guys overshooting it here yesterday, and it really makes the pit stop difficult. You can see the angle of the gun onto the wheel is absolutely critical. Now, remembering, wheel and tyre, if we come around the back here, they're all the same. Wheel's about 10 kilos. Tyre's another 10 kilos. The gun is that 5 kilos with the hose and nut on it. That's about 25 kilos. That's about a cement bag, or, you know, when you go to the airport, they let you have a 20-kilo bag, how heavy that is. Well, that's 25 kilos. So the guys train and put a lot of work into what we call human movement, biomechanics. What's the most effective way to get that wheel in 3.5 seconds from there off and back onto the car? Now, if I go around, let's come back to the front. Who are these people? Right, car controller. He's responsible for the pit stop. He brings the car in, stops it, and he's responsible for feeding it back out into the traffic. He is not allowed to touch the car. You might recall next door, Red Bull at Adelaide earlier this year. This guy came around and touched this part of the car and they got a pit lane drive-through. You cannot do that. That is his responsibility to oversee the pit stop. So we've got each of our guys on each of the wheels. Here's a guy with the wheel off. Now, just let me quickly show you here. Look at the mechanics. They've worked hard at this. Let's have a look how that wheel goes on now. Watch this. Remember, that's 25 kilos. One very smooth, gentle movement. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, our spike man. He's responsible for the car going up and the car coming down. The car cannot come down until the fuel is pulled out. It must stay in the air. He's allowed to do other jobs around here, but he cannot have anything to do with any of the wheels or tyres. Remember, he can only have 8 people. So there's 4 tyre and wheel men. We've got our spike man and we've got our car controller. So that's 6. Then we've got a fire extinguisher man that has to stand back here and watch the whole pit stop. He's part of our 8. And, of course, our fuel man. So you can see this is all well drilled. And we're here this morning because the guys come in early and practice. They do this over and over and over again. And what I want to do now, boys, if you want to finish that stop, go for it. And we might actually wheel the car back and just see how good these guys are. Okay, so Tooley's going to feed the car in. Now, look at my stopwatch here. From the moment the car stops, bang. You see they feed the nuts on very carefully and back on they go. So a lot of work goes in to the biomechanics, the physical movement of people and equipment to make that a beautiful transition so they can do that in 3.9 seconds. Good job, boys.